Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, and today we're going to be talking about Endwalker. Now, before we begin, I'd like to mention I'm not going to be talking about anything that can be considered a spoiler in any way, shape, or form. The gameplay that you guys are going to be watching throughout this video is going to be of me playing as a Dragoon. I'm going to be doing some side quests in the first section of the first combat area of the game to try and basically show you guys as little as possible, to leave as much as possible for you guys to discover in the game itself. And even then, if you don't even want to watch that, you can just minimize the window and listen to the commentary, because that is going to be the focus of this particular video. Now, you guys might be wondering, Rurikhan, why aren't you talking about spoilers? Why aren't you telling us your experience with the story and whatnot? And that's because we're still very early into the life cycle of Final Fantasy XIV. And, you know, the game has been in early access since Friday, and I believe that it actually launched officially today. And during that time, a lot of people haven't even been able to actually get into the game because there's been, obviously, a lot of demand to get in on the servers, and the login servers have been getting absolutely slammed and overwhelmed by the amount of people that want to play this game. And because of that, I want some of you guys that haven't really had a chance to play, or maybe just some of you guys that are watching on the sidelines, maybe you've never even played Final Fantasy XIV, I want you to be able to watch this video without necessarily getting spoiled. So that's like the main reason. Now, before we get into the topics proper, I should also mention that even though a lot of people have been having problems getting into the game, I'll tell you right now, I haven't really been one of those. I've been very lucky, and I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm not excusing it. I know that there's been problems. There's been people that have been getting kicked off of the login queue. As a matter of fact, I myself got kicked off once yesterday. Yesterday, I actually got kicked off of the login queue. That was the only time it happened. Besides that, you know, I wait in queue, I get into the game, and once I'm into the game, I haven't really been disconnected once. But that's my experience. Obviously, your mileage is going to vary depending on the quality of your ISP, depending on, you know, lots and lots of factors that I really don't want to get into in this video. But another cool thing that has happened with this situation is that Creative Business Unit, you know, Yoshi P, has stepped forward and said, look, we're sorry. The launch experience is not as good as we would like it to be. Naturally, there's a lot of situations out in the world right now with COVID and all of that that also prevent them from just straight up buying new hardware. Because, you know, with the shortage of semiconductors and all that, I mean, it took me like 2 months to find the parts that I wanted to make my own PC, let alone something as specialized as like a Final Fantasy XIV server. But on account of that, Yoshi P has came out and said, look, you guys are going to get 7 days of game time to make up for the fact that maybe you weren't able to play during launch. And I believe he even said that if the situation continues the way that it has, that he's evaluating the possibility of giving players even more time. So that, I think, is really, really cool because, you know, Final Fantasy XIV has always been a game that I've said respects your time. And what better way can there be of respecting your time than it's like, hey, you guys weren't able to play on launch. We're sorry about that. Here's 7 days of gameplay. For what has essentially been like 3 days of, you know, people having problems getting into the server, they're like, here you go. Here's 7 days of gameplay time, and we might give you more depending on whether or not we're able to address the situation or if the situation regularizes itself or not, which is, it's pretty cool, and I appreciate that. Now, as you guys are most likely aware, I'm not going to be streaming Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. I had planned on doing it, but I don't want to talk too much about that at the beginning of this video. I'll address the rest of that near the end. Right now, I want to focus on actually telling you guys what my experience has been up until now. Like, what's it like to play Endwalker? Does it deliver? Like, you know, what has the experience been like? And so far, I'll just let you guys know my personal progress in terms of the level of MSQ, which is the only thing that I can tell you that wouldn't be a spoiler. And I'm currently in the 83 level range of the MSQ, so I believe that I'm probably still fairly early into the game. I don't know exactly how many hours I've played because I haven't really been tracking that, and it probably wouldn't be accurate because naturally, with the massive amount of queues, every now and then whenever I need to take a break, I'll come back into the PC like every half hour or so to make sure that I don't get disconnected so that I can continue playing. So there is a significant amount of idle time in there as well, but my current progress is level 83 MSQ, and I'm immediately after the second instance. So those of you who have been playing through the game, you'll know exactly the point that I'm at. And I can tell you right now, I am absolutely loving everything about this game. The different zones that I've been to are pretty cool. My class feels fantastic to play. The side class that I'm playing, which is the Dragoon that you're watching right now, also feels fantastic. And it's like the Dragoon, I haven't even gotten access to any of my new abilities, right? But with the Paladin, I have gotten access to Holy Sheltron, which is friggin' awesome. I really, really like it. And just the story has been hitting all of the right notes. I would even say that I don't think I've ever been as immersed in any other MMO as I am into Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, to the point where there's a point in the story where I actually changed my character's glam because of the location that we were going to and the weather that was going to be there. I was like, I should probably change the way that my character is dressed, because if we're going to go into this place, and I just thought that was a cool thing, and I'm that level of immersed, which I think is pretty friggin' wild. I did not see that coming. Another thing that has actually happened is I've started riding my OG Chocobo. So, the very first Chocobo that you get. I started riding him again, and because, I'm also leveling him. I never really leveled him all the way up to cap because, I basically reached level cap a long time before I actually was able to level him. So, with the new expansion and me actually earning XP and whatnot, I figured, hey, let's level up the Chocobo. And it looks like I wasn't the only one who thought that, because the onions for Chocobo leveling are 300,000 gil in my server, which is redonkulous, all right? Let me just tell you right now, you absolute money-driven fiends, how dare you? But, I still want to level them up, so I already bought an onion, and I'm hoping that the price goes back down before I hit the next level. Otherwise, it's going to be completely insane. But yeah, I've been riding the OG Chocobo, again, because of immersion, because obviously I have him out as my companion, and it just feels good that, you ride on him while you're going to different places. Then when you dismount, he's there to help you out with a quest. It's just been really cool. And again, this is nothing groundbreaking. This is nothing that you couldn't have done previously in Final Fantasy XIV. But it just feels good to be doing it again in Endwalker, is all I'm saying. Now, the story itself has definitely been going places that I did not expect. And it's been a very special experience because, obviously I didn't skip any of the expansions. I did all of the content. The one content that I wish I did a little bit more of and that I wasn't able to finish was Rurikhan. But other than that, I've done pretty much almost everything that I could. And, because of this, the events that are taking place in-game, whether they're major events or minor events, all of these events get some kind of an emotional reaction from me. Whether I'm sad because something has happened, whether I get enraged because something happened, and whether I feel joy because something has happened, all of these have been something that, the game has been able to get that kind of reaction from me at every major, and like I said, sometimes even minor story beats. It has been that impactful. And it's been really, really cool. Now, obviously, like I said, I was going to be taking my time if I wasn't going to be streaming the game. So this is probably the reason why I'm still at 83 MSQ. If I was streaming, I think I would probably be a lot further ahead, because even though I don't like to admit it, you do tend to feel a little bit of a pressure, because when you're streaming, you're supposed to be putting on a show. So you want to be doing content that is considered entertaining. And in a way, this has actually made me happy that I'm not streaming the game, because I'm playing it a lot slower than I would have played if I was on stream. Because being on stream, I would have felt that pressure of like, oh, I should move on to the next MSQ quest. And not being on stream, what I ended up doing is like, hey, I want to see what's going on over there in that specific area of the map. Okay, that's cool. Hey, look, there's a fate happening here. Let me swap over to my Dragoon and tackle this fate, because I've been leveling Dragoon on the side. You know, I've just been taking things really, really slow. And I'm also not dealing with any of the potential spoilers that could happen on stream. And I know that the community has been extremely good about not spoiling people. But let's say that I'm with the current boom in popularity with the game, I feel like there might be some people in the community that are maybe not as considerate as they were before about spoiler culture. So the way that I'm playing the game is I'm actually /busy, which means people can't DM me at all. I'm in a custom chat so that I don't actually see /chat or /say. And I'm just being very careful. The only chat that I have open is my FC chat, which people are very careful about what they type in there. And, you know, everybody DMs each other whenever they want to talk about specific story beats. And, you know, it's been really cool not having to deal with the whole potentially being spoiled thing. As a matter of fact, let me just warn you guys, there's a big chance that I'm not even going to look at the comments in this video specifically to prevent anything like that happening. The other day I jumped into a stream from Brian because I knew that he wasn't doing the MSQ yet. And I read something in his chat and I was like, God damn it! I instantly jumped out because, again, some people, they just don't know... They just don't know what can or cannot be considered a spoiler. And it makes me a little bit sad, but, you know, it is what it is. And I know that Brian made a video talking about that as well. And that video made me a little bit sad because there's apparently people that are trying to ruin the experience for him, which kind of sucks. It really does suck. And, you know, it is what it is, but I just didn't really like that. And one of the things that I've definitely came to appreciate is that being all caught up, right? Being in the right expansion at the right time, I feel like I can truly appreciate these slower moments of the MSQ. Like, even though I took my time with the game, right? When I started back in 2019, I went through Realm Reborn, Heaven's Word, Stormblood, eventually Shadowbringers, and I always took my time with the game. But even then, I always felt a little bit of pressure, like whenever I was going through the slower moments of the main story quest. I feel like now that I'm experiencing Endwalker the way that I'm experiencing it, and the way that I experienced it back then, I feel like those slower moments in the story, I was like, oh my God, just get on with it. Let's move on to the next thing. And that hasn't happened. I think it might be because I'm fully caught up with the MSQ and because I've done all the other expansions and there's nothing ahead of me except this MSQ right now. And I think that allows me to truly just, like, you know, calm down and appreciate the slower moments. Or it might just be also a factor of me not streaming the game. But I'll tell you right now that whenever there's a slower moment in the MSQ, it's more enjoyable to me now than it's ever been before in the game. Like, I really do enjoy those slower moments where there's a little bit of character development, where there's a little event that took place and all of that. It's just been a really, really cool experience all around. Whether it's a slower moment of the MSQ or whether it's a faster moment of the MSQ. Now, they did make a couple of new quest types where you would have NPCs that follow you. My impression on those so far is I've actually enjoyed them quite a bit. I know that it's not going to be for everyone because, you know, most people don't really like escort quests, and sometimes they kind of feel like an escort quest. But at the same time, you know, you can talk to this character. There are certain things that will happen where you'll be able to get more context into this character. And here's another thing, right? In between every main story quest moment, I'm actually talking to each of the individual characters that are there and learning more and more about them, which is something that I didn't do in the previous expansion. Like I did it every now and then, and whenever people in chat would call my attention to it. But this time, every single time that there's like a, an NPC that you're supposed to talk to for the MSQ, I make sure to talk to all of the other NPCs that are around them to see what their feelings are at the moment. And there's some interesting flavor text there that I would just really advise people, like, you should check that stuff out for yourself. Like, don't rush through everything. Don't just be like, I'm going to be an MSQ Andy and just going to boost through everything and here we go, let's go. The only thing that matters is let's get to the action, all that. Like, really appreciate the slower moments of the MSQ because they are fantastic. This is, again, my opinion. You guys know I'm extremely biased towards Final Fantasy XIV. It is what it is. But it's been fantastic. I've just really, really been appreciating the whole flow of the game, right? And one of the things that I would definitely say is that for Endwalker, there's going to be people that are going to boost Endwalker. Like, there's no avoiding that. I've already seen some people that I look at them and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you skipped, because you just see people in like full Crypt Lurker gear, including weapon, and I'm just like, yeah. You look at their job listing, there's like one job level 80. I'm like, yeah. I mean, and again, there's nothing wrong with you skipping. Let me make sure that I make that particularly clear. I don't think there's anything wrong with you skipping. I would heavily advise against it, but hey, if this is what you want to do, this is what you want to do. You do what you want, right? But I will say that particularly for Endwalker, you're missing out on so much investment if you skip. Just because of the things that I've seen up until this point. If I had not played through Realm Reborn, I would have not been able to appreciate them properly. If I had not even, played a couple of side jobs, I would have not been able to appreciate them properly, which is interesting because even side jobs kind of come into play throughout the story, which again is not mandatory, right? But it does add more things to what you are experiencing in the game. And it's just amazing. Like, there's no other way of putting it. It's just everything that you've experienced throughout Realm Reborn, Heaven's Word, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, all of those story threads appear to have a payoff in Endwalker, which is, it's insane. Like, to me, that is insane. And the fact that, Yoshi P came out and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm delaying the game 2 weeks. And it's like, for what I've gotten so far, and bear in mind, only at level 83 MSQ, and only after the second instance, for what I've gotten so far, I've already gotten my money's worth out of the game. Oh, and yeah, I almost forgot to mention that I did get a code for the PC version from Square Enix. They were kind enough to send me a code. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that at the very start of the video, full disclosure and all that. But I should also mention that, my plan was to stream the whole thing with the PC version. I'd be able to disclose that during that stream and all of that stuff. But essentially, most of the time I've actually been playing on my PlayStation 5. So like, they send me a code for PC. And because of what happened on Thursday, I was like, Thursday night, I bought the game on PlayStation 5. But still, at least it saved me having to buy it on both platforms, because I was always going to need to get it on both platforms because I have the PS5 at my house and then the PC at the office, and whatever. That's neither here nor there. The point that I was trying to make here is, like, I would really advise people, if you're not up to Endwalker yet, just do your best to take your time. Do your best to enjoy the MSQ. And I can guarantee to you, okay, this is not like a hypothetical, I can guarantee to you that the story that you'll experience in Endwalker is going to be 10 times more meaningful than if you were to skip. But again, like I said, to each their own. If you just want to play with your friends and all of that stuff, go ahead, you do you. This is my advice as someone that is really, really enjoying the story. So, how am I playing the game up until this point? I've been using Paladin to do the MSQ. So every time there's an MSQ quest, I'm in there with my Paladin. I don't care if I eventually overlevel the MSQ with my Paladin. It doesn't really matter to me because One of the things that I even said in my free company chat is that, listen, MSQ only happens once. The MSQ roulette resets every day. So the last thing that you should be thinking of, and I'm guilty of making this mistake during Heavensward, the last thing that you should be thinking of is like, oh, I should use the experience that I'm going to be getting in MSQ to level an alt job. Like, you can do that if you want to, but my advice is just enjoy the MSQ as much as you can, because that's only going to be coming around once. So Paladin is going to be what I'm going to be playing throughout the entirety of the MSQ. But what I have been doing is, you know how you have the blue unlock quest that will show up from time to time? Whenever I get one of those, I basically pop out my Dragoon, and I do it as a Dragoon because I want to level up the Dragoon as I'm leveling the Paladin to have a DPS class going at the same time. I'll also be leveling up my Scholar and my Machinist and my Red Mage in due time, naturally, because I want to do all of the role quests and all of that stuff. But Dragoon is going to be the second class that I'm going to be leveling up. So the idea here is I'm going to be doing side quests with my Dragoon. And an interesting thing that I would like to bring up, which I don't remember if this is the way that it was done in Shadowbringers already. It might have, because in Shadowbringers I was still a little bit playing catch-up, so I didn't pay too much attention to the side quests. But some of these blue unlock quests will lead you to like follow-up side quests that are entirely optional. And what I've been doing is every time I open up one of those story threads, I see it through all the way, playing as Dragoon. And that has given me additional context to the zones that I'm playing in, and the characters that are in those zones and all of that stuff. And that is something that I would advise people to do. Even if you don't do the other ones, right? The other side quests, which I'm not doing. I mean, I'm doing them in this video so that I would have like B-roll for the video itself. I'm not actively going out of my way to do these quests. But I would very much recommend to do the follow-up to the blue quests, because those are usually pretty good. And you can use like an alternative job to level it up a little bit so that that experience does not necessarily go to waste. And that's kind of the way that I've been doing things, but you don't have to do things the way that I'm doing. Play however you think is the most fun for you. It is what it is. I would also like to bring up that I feel like there's been a little bit of an improvement in terms of quality of life in some of the side quests. So, for instance, you know those quests where whenever you have to knock a target unconscious and then use like a key item on them or something like that? I don't know if they've done this for all of the quests, but the ones that I've done so far, you actually can't kill the targets. So like the targets, you get to a certain amount of life and they just kind of like, they go to a position where they're subdued, and then you have time to pull up the key item and actually use it on them, which I'm super happy about, because that's one of the things that would happen to me a lot whenever I was doing quests like that. And it's like, oh, you have to subdue this target. And I'm like, kill this target? Yes, I'm very good at killing things. I can pull out my sword and kill things real good. Stopping to kill things in order to capture them, not so good at that. So I'm happy that they made that a little bit simpler. I mean, at the end of the day, was that really like a big skill-based thing? It's like, oh, you need to stop attacking at the exact right moment. But, hey, another player can come by and kill it, or your Chocobo can kill it, or, you know, you might have a dot running on the target and it can kill it. You know, there's a lot of things that could kill a target, so I'm happy that they did that. And there's a couple of more quality of life in some of those quests as well, from what I've seen, particularly quests that involve you like taking something to somewhere. Those quests also seem to have a little bit more of improvements. Everything just feels a little bit better, a little bit more polished all around. And again, these could be things that were present in Shadowbringers, and I just didn't experience them as much because I did almost no side quests whatsoever in Shadowbringers. So, you know, it is what it is. And finally, instances, of which I've done 2. I'm not going to be talking specifically about them, but they basically, you know, the trust system is back, except it's like, I don't want to just call it the trust system, because, you know, you can level up your trust and do all of these things, and my trusts are like level 71. I have to go back to Shadowbringers and level them up eventually. But, you know, they give you level appropriate trusts if you want to go do the dungeon and not queue with other players. And to me, it almost feels like the game is designed with the intention of you doing those instances alone with your trusts for the first time, because I don't know how those instances are going to play out when you actually have other players, because I haven't really done them with other players. I've only done, like I said, the first 2 instances, and I've done them both times with the trusts. But I think that with players, it's going to be a very different experience. And with trusts, the way that they do it, I just felt like it was brilliant. And in my opinion, it was brilliant. I'm curious to see what it looks like when I get more players in there. But for now, I'm going to keep doing all of the instances with trusts first, and then I'm going to be doing them, you know, with other players. And obviously, I want to hopefully contribute to the tank shortage that there's going to be with everyone playing Reaper and Sage. It's going to be me, a Sage, and 2 Reapers every time I jump into a random dungeon. So that'll be cool. But, you know, that's going to be something that I'll do whenever I finish the MSQ, because right now I'm enjoying the MSQ way too much to be concerned about, you know, min-maxing. I haven't even done any roulettes. I haven't min-maxed literally anything. I've just been focused on enjoying the MSQ. I mean, for me right now, Final Fantasy XIV is basically a JRPG. It's a JRPG that I'm in the same world as some of my friends, and that's pretty much it. And it's been fantastic. Like, I'm super happy, despite the fact that, you know, I wanted to stream it, obviously. But I feel like me not streaming it is actually going to turn out to be a much better experience for myself, personally. That's the way that I feel about it. My one complaint that I have right now is, you guys might remember, at least I remember Yoshi P saying something in the lines of, you know, every now and then some of your friend NPCs can pop up into your multi-seater mount. And that hasn't really happened to me at all. Like, in the beginning of the expansion, I was driving everywhere in my regalia to see if NPCs would randomly appear in the car, and they never have. And even when sometimes I'll have like an NPC following me or whatnot, I'll mount up the regalia, the NPC will not get in the car. They will just still be following behind me. And I'm just like, oh man, I was a little bit bummed out about that, because I thought that that was going to be the case. Like, if I had NPCs following me, I could pop up the regalia or the drought chocobo, and, you know, people would jump in on them, but that just straight up hasn't happened. Made me a little bit sad, but in the grand scheme of things, it's such a minor thing that it's not really that big a deal. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Endwalker so far. It's been everything I could have possibly wanted, and so much more. And I feel like I'm not even 1/3 of the way through, which is absolutely insane. Like, I cannot express how insane it is that I'm, at least I think I'm like barely 1/3 of the way through. And I already feel like I've gotten so much out of this game that it's actually crazy. I think it's incredibly underrated, if anything. Some people will say that 14 is overrated. I'd say it's underrated. But, you know, I'm going to continue going through it. And for those of you that are curious about the stuff that happened on Thursday, I'm just going to say I'm sorry if you guys were worried about me. Right now I'm feeling okay. I appreciate everyone that reached out and commented on the video and all of that stuff. Thank you all very much. I'm very blessed for having so many people that, you know, reached out both in DMs and stuff, and fellow content creators and friends and that reached out. And I really appreciate it. Like I said, at the moment I'm feeling fine. I'm taking it easy. You guys can probably tell by my voice I'm not really straining very much. I'm not pushing myself. Yesterday I went to the doctor and I scheduled some exams just to be on the safe side. So on the 23rd I'm getting like a full checkup with lots and lots of tests. And we'll see if there's anything wrong with me, or if not, or if it was just like, you know, a moment where I was maybe a little bit too stressed out. And or if maybe I'm just getting a little bit too old, you know. At the end of the day, next year I'm going to be 40, so it is what it is. But right now, I think I'm going to be fine, so you guys don't really have to worry too much. But yeah, once again, I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit it up with a like. If you did not, hit it up with a dislike. Not that it matters, because YouTube took that thing away, which is dumb, but, you know. Thank you all. I hope you all are having a good time. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.